Russ Olson is running for re-election to the state Senate District 8. The other candidate is Clark Schmidtke Sr. Each candidate will answer the same set of questions. You can compare their responses online at amazingmadison.com.
Russ, thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure.
Do you support an increase in education funding in South Dakota? And if so, how would you pay for the increase?
It's a great question, and it's one that's came up long before I got into the legislature, and it's one that'll continue long after I'm gone. An increased education would be great. We have to keep in mind that we have infinite needs and wants and finite resources. So, when I ran in 2008, I worked with administrators from all over District 8 on what the tools that we could give them that would help them through these difficult times, especially right now in this recession. And they informed me that they had funds available for them that they weren't allowed to use. So we actually took a piece of legislation called the Capital Outlay Bill, is what it got nicknamed, as most bills get a nickname, and worked that through the legislature, which allowed them to spend down monies that they already had in their capital outlay fund for things like insurance and energy costs, fuel, electricity, things like that. And so we give them resources that they already had at their disposal. So to say we can go out and find new money for education is going to be difficult in these tight times. If we take money from and give it to education, it's got to come from somewhere else, so corrections or social services or our highways. So it's really going to be a difficult blend to find that. I mean, more than nothing, they've got 0% increase last year. All of us want to see more money go into there, but right now I guess I'm going to have to get in there, and we're going to have to take the budget line by line and see what we can come up with.
Okay. During the last session, the state gave a $10 million refund to TransCanada to build the Keystone Pipeline. Do you believe incentive packages to specific companies such as this are an appropriate economic development tool?
Absolutely. With TransCanada, those incentives were in place long before TransCanada came and made the decision to come through South Dakota. Certain groups would have you believe that this was a special deal cut for TransCanada. It wasn't. We'd put out our rebate on the contractor's excise tax long before TransCanada made their mapping plans through South Dakota. And what happened is they made the investment, typically unheard of investment in South Dakota. It's a $800 million stimulus for the state to put their tank lines through South Dakota, and then after they already had them in the ground, before the grass had even grown back over the top of them, we came back in and revised how the contractor's excise tax would be refunded to big projects last year. And so TransCanada actually wound up with about $30 million less than what they had originally done when they did their forecasting. And they will continue to be the largest property tax payer in the state of South Dakota, about $25 million a year that they'll pay. And on top of that, everybody keeps beating on TransCanada because they're the easy target, because they're from a friendly foreign country. Let's keep that in mind, that it's that much less oil that we have to get from Hugo Chavez or any other petroleum dictators around the world. And TransCanada, also, another thing people don't realize is our first question was about education funding. With their pumping stations, the property taxes that go into those areas where they have pumping stations is an economic development project of its own. It's more money to the schools and to the counties than they could have ever seen with any industry for doing nothing but sitting there. And another thing that people have to realize is that 2% of the gross receipts from South Dakota's new largest rural electric customer for these pumping stations, 2% of their gross receipts goes directly to the school district. So in some cases, it's between $200,000 and $400,000 a year. So it's a phenomenal amount of money, and the economic impact certainly outweighs the one-time $10 million rift that everybody is so worked up about.
Okay. And as senators, what would you be doing to help spur job creation in the state and here in District 8?
Yeah, we continue to, look at the tools that South Dakota has. The big one that everybody always goes to is our READY Fund. And the same said, in these tough times, people have went and said, well, the READY Fund has done well. We started that out. Governor Mickelson started that out with a sales tax increase that actually sunsetted itself as soon as it hit $40 million. Now they have assets of $96 million. So certain groups also then say, well, that prosperity for that fund should go back into the state budget and help them make promises that they've made that they weren't able to keep. And I think that we have to look at those funds, see what we can do to enhance those. They've been at 3% interest for 20 years now. Is there some 0% interest, 1%, different things that we can do to incentivize to compete with these other states that are thinking of new ways outside the box? I'm on the South Dakota Development Corporation Board of Directors, and we have done just that. We have looked at the way that we put our loans together, and through the SBA, we've actually been able to waive the processing fees, which helps out in the overall company's decision. If they're, $20,000 difference between us and state B, sometimes that's the little things that matter. So, taking a look at what economic development programs and projects we have out there that are performing and enhance those, and the ones that aren't working, let's redevelop those.
Thanks to candidate Russ Olson. Hear more from all the candidates October 28th at the Madison Chamber of Commerce Forum.